Hey guys. Thank you for joining us, Crystal and Aneel, on Investors Corner. Thank you for just coming back and viewing us and being a part of this podcast.
Episode 6, right? We made it after. Remember, we talked a couple episodes ago that most podcasts don't last after 5 episodes.
Oh,
We,
that's right.
we we made it past the threshold, so we've done it. We're supposed to
Well,
get some more guests on, but I think we do great, just me and you too.
That's right. Yeah, it's working and we're enjoying this and we're growing and we're learning and we've got some exciting people coming on soon as well. And so, but what I'm really excited about is today I get to interview my co-host, main man Aneel, because he's got an awesome new venture coming up. And Note Invest MD, is that correct?
Yes, that's the kind of the real estate brokerage that we're starting, or new investing brokerage that we're starting. You're kind of the impetus of it in a lot of ways. Of course, you've been kind of my note mentor and kind of got me into the space and kind of gotten me to learn about the aspects of what note investing is, right? And you had come to me when we were just starting the initial talk about starting the podcast, right? And you had mentioned, hey, a lot of our investors are physicians, and we'll get into it a little bit deeper, but that's where this light bulb went off. It was like, hey, tying physician investors and people, physicians that want to invest in real estate into notes could be something. And then Note Invest MD is about to be born.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I remember when we were talking, we were also just talking about since COVID, we've seen a lot of physicians, people in the medical industry, there being a burnout. And when you started mentioning your background, which I know you're going to share with us, I was like, wait, this is genius. And you have such a connection there, and your background, I thought it's genius. So I'm excited about this new venture for you, and we're excited to be on the journey with you on this.
Yes.
And this is the first big reveal too,
Yeah, so that's how,
to
yeah,
learn
exactly.
all
Getting
about.
the first time, getting out there, putting the pieces
Yeah.
together. Listen, it's all about synergies and things that align, right? And listen, I'm newer to real estate, like I'll share, but my background is in healthcare, and so this is a good kind of merging of the network. So
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I wanted to hear a little bit more specifically why your focus on physicians. And then if you can explain a little bit more on real estate note investing for our listeners that may not understand what that concept is as
yeah,
well.
right, absolutely. So my journey into real estate specifically has just been about a year and a half now, 2 years into real estate specifically. My background is healthcare in medical supplies, medical technologies, consulting. For many years, I've helped healthcare providers implement kind of innovative remote patient monitoring and healthcare technology programs. And so that's really what my background has been. Now, the last year and a half or 2 years or so, as we've talked about in past episodes, I've been involved in the launch of a tremendous land development company, landfix.com, right? And that's where I've gotten my first taste of real estate in regards to, from a developer level, honestly, but there's so much, there's so many aspects of real estate that goes into selling land, developing land, and that whole aspect. But that was my first,
Absolutely.
introduction into real estate, and now my arrival in real estate, so to say, right? On the note side, like I mentioned earlier, we connected, and I learned, and kind of was emerged into this new aspect of real estate investing, which is investing in notes. And for me, it made so much sense because myself, I'm looking into becoming an investor myself. And the golden word that's thrown out there is cash flow. That's what everyone is searching for in real
Right.
estate, right? They're searching for cash flow. And as I started kind of doing my research in these different aspects of real estate investing and the different strategies, because there are so many, and we've covered them as well. To achieve the true cash flow, I couldn't find anything better than notes. And so and so that's why I'm like, you know what, I want to go all in on this. I want to learn how I can get involved, not just for myself, but also how I can provide a offering to my network as well, and create something that can bring value to folks that I know in my network.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have such a large network within, not only with your family, friends, but the
Mm-hmm.
years and years that you've been in the medical industry and seeing the ups and downs and the challenges. It was funny. Share with us a little bit about briefly when we were talking about notes specifically, and even a play on notes with the physician. I thought that was genius.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And so that's when it came to me too, right? So why providers? Why healthcare providers? Why physicians, right? And I'll go back to that play.
Yeah.
So listen, providers, there has been a rise in burnout in providers. Providers, a lot of them that don't have their businesses and not entrepreneurs, which a lot of them are not, they've been really run down over the last 5 to 10 years for many reasons. One, specifically the shrinking of reimbursement rates, right?
Mm.
They're doing more work but getting paid less and having to chase these insurance companies for reimbursement. Okay, that's
Oh,
one. Number two, there's very strict quality measures. So there's always that's tied to their income as well. So a lot of most providers that work for these larger groups, they have strict quality measures that are tied to their reimbursements and their income. What I mean by that is they have to perform at a higher level. They have to have better patient engagement. They have to have better patient reviews. They have to show that if a patient has diabetes, that they're helping, that they can show down the road that their diabetes is getting better. That is tied to their income. That's a lot of
wow.
pressure for a provider, and so
I
they
did
come out
not
of
know
school,
that.
they're in a lot of debt, most of them, and then they get
Right.
into the workplace, and yes, they're making income, yes, they're making a higher medium salary than most people, but also they're getting taxed the most as well. And it's not a passive income. It's a very, you have to show up at the office, you have to do your hours, you have to do your procedures or whatever, and then you get paid. And then again, on top of that, that pressure of being on the value side and showing quality and showing value in your work, right? That
Wow.
all burdens on them. And then on top of that, there's one last thing, and this kind of goes into that. There is a really big role with electronic medical records. They have to now document everything, right, into their EMR to also get paid. So every visit that they have to make these long documented notes, right? That they often
Yeah.
spend either after hours doing, or during their visit, they're just down and not even engaging with the patient because they have to make these, they have to put in these diagnosis notes and just a bunch of documentation. And so doctors hate that, providers hate that. It's been something in the industry where it's that kind of unwritten rule that, man, half the time you're just documenting. And so when we came across when I came across this note idea, I'm like, you know what? These are going to be notes that providers are not that do not hate,
Right.
right? Because almost every provider that you're going to talk to hates the documentation note part of their job, right? And so it does make them money in a way. It's the only way they can get paid. They have to submit this documentation with each of their visits. But let me tell you, ain't nobody like doing it. And so that play on words is, hey, I've got notes, or I'll offer you notes that will create income for you, and you will not run away from, right? And
Yeah.
listen, healthcare providers and physicians, they're the most important people, some of the most important people in our society. A lot of them, yes, they make money, but a lot of them do it just out of the love of care, right? They want to take
Right.
care of patients. They do it for that. But you're right. But there's statistics that see suicide is up,
Mm.
burnout is up,
Yeah.
because a lot of it's financial and a lot of it's the workplace pressure. And so be able to give them a way to earn passive income off the money that they're earning, through notes and through real estate notes and a secured way to invest. to me was a no-brainer. And I've always been a real kind of Savion and someone that was always wanting to help providers. I come from a whole lineage of healthcare
Sure.
providers. I know that space. I know what they go through to even get to becoming that MD next to their name, right? I know what that means. And so being able to provide, and I've always provided services for them, whether it's supplies, technology, consulting, advice. And this is my next kind of wave of providing another service to them. And so I think
Wow.
one, the landscape that they're in right now, the rat race that they're in right now. I mean, a lot of them that are working in these hospitals are working long hours for less money going forward. Their futures, they see this as a profession that, hey, man, what's my future, right? As you continue to get squeezed, what's my retirement? There's volatility in stocks, there's volatility in other investments. And so I think providing an education to these folks and showing them a path to true passive income through real estate
Yeah.
is a journey that we're starting, and I'm happy to be a part of it and bringing it to the world.
Oh, I love hearing that, and I feel like you just gave us so much insight to into the um, physician medical world that we weren't aware of. I know, especially me, I think all of us go to a doctor and expect, oh, I mean, they know the answers, they know what to do, and they make lots of money. But it is this high stress. They have high financial constraints, high time constraints. There's a lot of challenges, like you said, and I didn't even think about on the insurance side. I mean, they're then doing their job, but then they're also having to rely on so many others to get paid, and that's stressful, and so it's really not, it sounds like, a lot of times in their own control.
Yes, you're right. And what's also happening is these small independent practices, right? So
Right.
there is doctorpreneurs, right, that are going to
Yeah.
start their own practice and want to go out there. But what's happening is it's harder for them to get paid from insurances independently. And that's why you're seeing big conglomerates acquire. And now you're seeing Baylor Scott and White bigger and
Yeah.
Extension bigger and all these groups bigger. And they're crazy gobbling up these small independent practices because how the system is set up between insurances and wait how much they're getting paid. It's very, very hard for them to survive, right?
Wow.
And then once they're in that bigger conglomerate system, well, guess what? You're obeying to their rules. You're no longer a owner. You are now an employee, right? And from there, that's where that rat race starts, right? Long hours for less
Yeah.
pay. And the landscape, listen, the healthcare landscape is always ever changing, right? Especially on the reimbursement and payment side. And we can go
Right.
into a whole kind of tangent on that as well. Reimbursements changing of codes of actually getting paid, diagnosis codes change, and so there's just almost it's almost a dance back and forth of what
Sure.
next year brings. And it's a lot of uncertainty, especially if it's a doctor that's working for themselves. Now, that's why a lot of them go toward these bigger groups because there's a lot more, if you call it stability, and there's a lot less unknowns when you're working for a Baylor or you're working for a bigger group,
Yeah.
right? And so they don't want to be so risk adverse either working for themselves, right? Just like any kind of
Right.
entrepreneurial business journey, right? And so that's sometimes they just settle and say, listen, I'll just work for this group. I'll do my time, and yes, they make money. They have a high salary, of course, but they're really having to make the donuts every day to earn that salary. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
It's high high stress, and I just thank you for enlightening us on that information, because I think it also would help us appreciate our physicians more, and those in the medical industry
Absolutely.
more. And with all that being said, kind of share with us, bring it together on with Note Invest MD, and how you see that helping with physicians with solving that problem. And I want to hear, because I know you personally, but our listeners, to hear the core values and the vision of what this is all about, and where you're looking to go with this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I think number one, it starts with education. Just like myself and many others, no one really knows about note investing, right? They're always, and physicians invest in real estate, but it's those traditional methods that I believe they're very frustrated with. Whether it's it's investing in a fund. I mean, most of them are accredited investors, and it is a passive way to invest in some cases, but
Sure.
you have to wait for that.
Yep.
There's always a promise from these funds of passive income, right? But there is always a time till you get to that passive income, right? Usually it's a
Right.
2 to 5 year hold. Oh, we have to stabilize this multifamily asset.
Mhm.
XYZ has to happen. The physician investor has to jump on a call, listen to the developments and the updates. And when they're just like, man, I just want my passive income. I've spoken to a couple providers and physicians kind of, dabbing into this idea. And I'm like, they're invested in funds. They had to move money at the end of the year just for tax purposes. And they invested in this project. And he's like, listen, I just want my money. I was like, I don't care what, that we stabilize the rent, or we fix this, we fix that, or, or our insurance policy was negotiated, whatever it may be, right? They
Yeah.
don't want to be on the phone dealing with all this and even getting the updates, right? And so for them, it's time, right? Their time is the most valuable asset that not only we have, but especially for folks like themselves, right? And so spend that time getting updates from a fund and waiting for this passive income while the money is kind of just held, right? They can afford to have it held, but their number one goal is that golden goose, which is passive income, because they do
Right.
not receive that from their daily job, right? And
Right.
so they have money that if they don't move it, they're going to get taxed on, and all these type of things, right? So that's one. I think the education around that this type of investment even exists, I don't believe a lot of them know, because I
Right.
think the majority of them are targeted by funds on multifamily and just regular investments or stocks and things like that. I don't think they get um, an introduction on this specific type of investing, and that it's even out there, right? Even I think the seasoned kind of doctor, physician, real estate investor. So that's one. I think being able to educate them. I think coming to them in that lunch and learn kind of pharmaceutical model, right? How does sales happen in healthcare? It's always that, hey, bring lunch for the staff, and we'll give you 30 minutes with the docs, right? And I think, hey, listen, that's how it works in healthcare. I've done it in my medical sales background as well. Let's
Everyone loves free lunch.
Everyone loves free lunch, breakfast, or coffee, right? So yeah, so no
Yeah.
InvestMD will bring you lunch, and and
Right.
we'll do that model.
Yes.
And I think taking that approach, reaching out to clinics and folks that we know, scheduling some time to get some undivided attention from them, and just providing that education. And listen, every investor or every provider is going to be different, right? Some
Right.
are, asking them what they're investing in. Maybe they want to diversify, right? Maybe they have an IRA or a portfolio they want to move money from. We've always talked about it. Like, this doesn't have to be the end all be all investment. It's a great way to diversify, right? And bring in some cash flow and pay off other debts or whatever, however you want to structure it. So I think starting with a higher education, kind of a broader education, and then having a one-on-one approach. Like, hey, Dr. Rodriguez, what are some investments that you're in right now? What is a note package or something that we can put you in that you want to earn in a cash flow? What's the yield you want to return, get? What do you want to invest in now? What do you want to invest in 6 months from now or a year from now? What are your financial goals, right? I think
Right.
we need to sit down and have these conversations with these folks, right? When do you want to retire? Hey, let's put you on a
Sure.
plan. You want
Yeah.
to retire, right? Let me put you on a fast track, right? Let me put you on a fast track to get out of this rat race, to not practice anymore, and build the revenue and the cash flow for you and your family going forward, right? I think we're
Given
giving
all.
them a key. Yeah, we're
Yeah.
giving them options. We're giving them a key out. So I think it really is going to start with education. I think it's going to be having those one-on-one conversations, those intimate conversations about, hey, what your financial goals are, and just providing them an option. Hey, it may not be for them. They may have questions. They may not, but it's still something that's giving them an option for cash flow and a way to invest passively, true passively, right?
Right.
Because, and then we'll ask them next question too. I'm like, hey, do you want to be active or passive? Most of them are going to say passive, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, what passive investments are you in today? How long did they take? Right? Can you get cash flow day one? You can't, right?
Right.
I don't think you can. So,
Well,
so
and then with the cash flow too, being able to compound interest, like being able
yep,
to keep growing that and growing that. And a lot of the physicians I know, they love what they do. I mean, that's why they
yes,
got into doing that. They love it. They love the science, all of those things. They're patients. Um, but and so not all of them are wanting to just obviously quit their job, but they want to also be set up as well, like you said, and diversify in areas. And I'm biased with notes,
yeah,
but because I think for everyone's milestone, and it's going to be different timing and different amounts, but really it should be securing passive monthly cash flow, building retirement period. And that should be really your end goal for whether you're a physician, engineer, a teacher. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, and you know our story going through with caretaking for our parents and my husband's father not having a financial plan in place. I mean, then that
right,
leaves the children, us, caretaking and having to handle all of that. But
right.
cash flow, period,
Yeah,
securing
and
that.
it's just something that's not going to be they're not going to be able to get through their regular job, right? Unless they,
Exactly.
and yes, they may have some other investments in place as well. But this is again to complement that, to diversify that.
Yeah,
And again, I think everyone's different, right? And you're right.
sure.
I don't think most of them want to quit their job, right? But I think they do want to invest in real estate, and they're
Absolutely.
always being marketed and targeted for real estate investments, right? And in different variations. But I think most of them are disappointed in that. I think unless they have good partners and things like that, I think a lot of them are not especially right now. A lot of the accredited money is getting capped for capital calls, and
Yep.
multifamily's really rough right now. If you invested in office buildings, you're in trouble. Retail. I mean, there's not a lot of asset classes right now that are doing well, right? In terms of investment, and unfortunately, right? And so, I think when we start speaking with these folks, I think we're going to learn that, right? And again, they don't want to fix toilets. They don't want to deal with tenants. They don't want to deal with all that, right? They just don't. They don't have the time to, right? And even if they did, even if they wanted to do all that, they won't be able to do it efficiently, right? And I'm sure we'll hear some folks to say, you know what, I did buy 5 units and I was trying to manage it and it didn't work out because X, Y, Z, right? Because I'm
Right.
sure we're going to run into to providers and physician investors that have went down the road of investing in real estate, and maybe they have like a bad taste now because they invested and they didn't realize how active they needed to be in it, right? Or what it took, right? And they're like, oh man, I don't want to deal with that, or they got a hit, right? So I'm looking forward to hearing the experience and their thoughts on investing in real estate as well, because I've always with my background, I've always kind of sat down with them and talked to them about their healthcare business,
Right.
right? I've always
Right.
talked to them about, hey, where are your reimbursements? Where are your patient pool coming from? How can we expand that? How can we help with X, Y, Z? And so it's going to be interesting for me to start having these conversations on a different aspect. Hey, what's your investment strategy? What are you looking to do from a retirement standpoint? What are you investing in on a real estate standpoint? So I'm looking forward to having those conversations now, kind of a different aspect in regards to engaging with these folks. And but it's exciting, right? Because it's like,
That's
hey, you're bringing another type of value to them, and for me, it's another way to re-engage with some folks that haven't spoken to in a while, and
yeah.
providing them more value, right? Um,
Absolutely, and giving them options and an out too for growing that. I mean, who doesn't want to secure their retirement and grow that cash flow? I mean, I don't know anyone that wants to say no. So you're, like you said, adding value. Can you, one last question I wanted to ask, give a success story or a hypothetical story of how with the physician and with no Note Investor MD? Just kind of, do you have a story yet, or do you have something that you can kind of share with
So
us?
yeah, so we're close to launch, right? We're starting to have the kind of the launch of the company and start engaging with providers.
Mhm.
I'll give you an initial kind of success in my initial research or just testing
Sure.
the market. But also then I want to kind of put the vision of what I want to see happen for some of these folks, right? So right around kind of the end of last year, when we're kind of kicking around this idea and the partners are coming together and I'm kind of engaging with some of the folks, I went to a couple Christmas parties of some providers, right? And I started. I knew there were investors. I knew they had invested in real estate, and so I started kind of dropping the seed, right? I said, hey, what kind of investments you made last year, and what kind, are you invested in real estate? What kind of things, returns are you seeing? How do you feel about it? And there was a doctor that I engaged with, and I started kind of having a little conversation with. And he goes, yeah, I had to move about 300 to 400,000 at the end of the year, kind of like a 1031, had to move some money for some tax purposes.
Okay.
And so he invested in a development. It was kind of a small syndication that he invested in and was part of. And he stated his frustration of, this was supposed to be a 6-month project, right?
Mm.
But they had some hiccups on construction. They had some delays on getting the plans done with the city. The standard when you're developing a real estate project. Hiccups. Listen, we know them, right?
Yeah,
But as a
absolutely.
provider, he goes, man, and he was talking to a colleague of mine who had referred him the syndicator that the doctor invested with, right? So he kind of joked. He's like, man, I put my life savings in that. When am I going to see a return? Like, kind of joking, right?
Oh,
And he's like, I don't know when I'm going to get this return. I just want the money and I want to go vacation with it or something like that, right? That was kind of like his comment. Um, Showing me and giving me a sign that, look, they want their money out. They don't
right.
care. He said, hey, I was on a call and I was on a development call and it was like a 2-hour call about, hey, this is what we're working on and this construction's late. He's like, man, it was all bad news.
Oh,
And at the end of it, I didn't hear anything about me getting paid. It was just development updates. I don't have time for development updates, right?
right.
I was like, yeah, I need to know. It's my investment, and things. I need to know what's going on, but I just want my money out. Like
Right.
eventually, I want to see where my return is. And so that kind of was my sign to be like, you know what? They like investing in real estate. They know it's a great way to put money and grow it,
Sure.
right? But they don't want to deal with the everyday. Even on that level, he's not even active in it. He's not doing the construction or dealing with contractors. He's just an investor. But he doesn't even want to sit on the development call, right? Because
Yeah,
it's killing his time, right? And
absolutely.
so, right. And so I kind of dropped the seed. This is when we were first. I was like, yeah, you know what? You should invest in notes. He's like, what's that? I was like, what's that? And
Right?
so, right. He's like, what is
Most
that?
people
I
don't
was
even know. Right.
don't know, right? And so right away he goes to me and I tell him, I'm like, hey, it's promised way. You can act like the bank, and all you need to do is receive the monthly payments, and you act like that bank, and you take over the loan, and then loan payment comes to you, right? From a high
Yeah,
level, I kind of explained it. He's like,
sure.
well, that sounds great. And I was like, yeah, exactly. And he's like, it's a truly passive way to invest in real estate, right? He's like, all right, well, next year let's talk. You know what I mean? And so that was my initial kind of market research of the people that I know, just kind of, inner circle to be like, yo, what is this idea? What is the temperature when you drop this idea? And to me, I found two things. I found that one, they don't know about it, right? And
Yeah.
two, it is a tremendous pitch, similar to what you said, was like, hey, all my investors mostly are physicians and folks that want to invest, right?
Yeah.
And then lastly, I think my big vision for it is to be able to help these physicians that feel like they're stuck, feel like they're in this rat race,
Yeah.
feel like the world and this profession that they've devoted their life and years to study into to provide a change in the world, to do that. there is a way out. There is not a way out, but just a way to secure the future for them, because it's so stormy, gray, and uncertain right now, right? And what to even do with that money that they're earning. You know what I mean? And yeah, they're earning it, but it's much harder to earn it. But how could you take that earned income and turn it into something passive that you see a path to retirement, right?
Yeah.
And so that's my big vision, is to help providers do that over the next 5 to 10 years. Give them tremendous returns, give them a vehicle to retire from, a vehicle to create additional income from, and just be another value and a resource for them going forward. With your help and my partner's help, God willing, I think we'll be able to do that with Note
Yeah.
Invest MD. So excited for it.
I love hearing that. I'm super excited. I mean, there's so many areas where with notes you can be creative. I actually had a question yesterday. He said my biggest challenge with the notes is liquidation process.
Right.
I what if I only wanted to keep it for, say, because we do a lot that are 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, which people absolutely love. And he said, well, what if I only want it for 5? It's like, there's a market for that to liquidate. But think about this: if you're able to secure your income, say 15 years at an 11%, 10%, 12%, okay, instead of having to, then you take your money out, got to go find the next deal, do your due diligence, may or may not get your money back. I mean, the amount of time that your money's not gaining return, I mean, you're just wasting a lot of time and you're going to miss out on a lot of
And
money
that's
too.
what I'm saying. I'm assuming a lot of these folks are earning a lot of income, but it's not working for them, right?
Right.
Yeah, they have a lot of bills, they have a lifestyle. When you're making
Yeah.
that kind of income, you have a lifestyle too, right? And on top of
Yeah.
that, like I mentioned before, they're the highest tax bracket, right?
Yeah.
And so I think being able to provide this type of avenue for them, it makes a lot of sense, right? And you probably mentioned the other day when you mentioned, like, what's the best way to invest $1 million? I think it's the notes, right? You have mentioned that someone had put $1 million into notes and is going to be gaining 10,000 in cash flow each month,
Each month.
right?
Yep.
Each month, right? You're looking at, if it goes 15 years, it's 800,000 over the next 10, 15 years, right? But like you also mentioned, in the 5 to 10 years, he gets his money back, right? In a
Right.
way, right? And that there is a big, so it's like, what's the best way? If you have $1 million sitting, no bank is going to give you that much return, right?
Right.
No fund is going to give you that much return at that fast. And 10,000 in cash flow each month, that's not, your $1 million isn't locked up technically. You're getting a return day one on it, right? And so, like, to me, that was like, when you mentioned that the other day, I'm like, wow, like, what a way to make $1 million work for you, right? Like,
Absolutely.
shoot, I think anyone that has $1 million sitting in the bank will sign up for that. 10K
Yep.
in 10K in cash flow, 10% return, boom. And then I think the biggest misconception is, like you mentioned before, is people think they're just locked into this note. No.
Right.
I mean, you can sell partials of the note. You can sell 5 years of it. You can get out of it and sell the whole thing if you want to. Maybe you just want to collect that 10,000 in cash flow for the next 5 years. Whatever. So you're very flexible on how you can get in and out of notes, and I think that's a very, very big misconception that a lot of people have in regards to investing in notes and acquiring notes.
Yeah, I would agree. It's so many creative ways
Yeah.
to make that cash flow, and I love that you're going to be focused on the education piece, because there's people that I've been talking to more recently that are in multifamily syndications, all of those things, but they know what a fund is. I mean, excuse me, and know what a note is, but they're like, but I couldn't explain it to. I had a lady tell me, but I couldn't explain it to a kindergartner. She said, and she invests in multifamily and has made a lot of money in that. But she goes, but notes, I know nothing about that. And so just, I think the education behind it is huge.
Yeah, and this is a big
Yeah,
lack, right? And I think it's something that we need to focus on, not just for providers, but anyone in general. You mentioned it
exactly.
earlier that, listen, you know, not just providers need to be investing in notes. Everyone and their mother needs to be investing in notes, right? Because it's just a way to create some passive income that you more likely wouldn't be able to get, right? And there's no barrier to entry. You don't need to be an accredited investor. You don't need
Right.
to, have a ton of money. I mean, I was looking at a website the other day. I mean, there's notes for $8,000, right?
Right.
The remaining, it's kind of the end of the loan, but that $8,000 in a couple of years turns into 10. I mean, it's still a little bit of a return, right? It's a way to
Totally.
make you're getting $200 a month off of it. I mean, it's still a way to make money work, right? I think
Yeah.
one of the biggest things, the lessons that I've learned from my mentors is money in the bank just sitting around is a waste. You have to get the money to work if you have it, right? You have to earn
Absolutely.
it and then make it work. Earn it and make it work, right? I think that's the number one thing, and a lot of people forget that. A lot of people just don't know, right? And I think the education is going to be a huge piece of this. With your help. And again, listen, what is a note? A note is just a promise to pay.
Right.
Listen, you have a note on your car, you have a note on your house, you have a note on everything, right? And there's notes on everything. Anything you have a finance deal with, there's a note there, right? We're just dealing with real estate notes, the probably strongest collateral that you can have. It's something that you promise to pay with the back of a collateral, whether it's a car, and in that case, an auto loan, and in this case, it's land or a multifamily unit or a house. It's a promise to pay. And you are basically buying, when you buy a note, you're buying the right to be entitled to receive the payment from that promise that was made. I mean, from a high level, that's all it is, right? So the original note holder who owns and entitled to those payments from that promise to pay is now selling it to you to instead, right? And there's margins there, there's interest there, obviously, right? And so from a high level, that's really what a note is, right? And then you can get more intricate into the type of notes and things like that we've discussed in past podcasts. But again, we'll be providing a lot of that education. We'll be doing one-on-ones and webinars, online content as well, because I do think a huge piece of this is going to be education, period.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Well, I'm excited, and I know that this is gonna, yeah, it's gonna grow fast. And so if there are any physicians out there, please talk to Aneel. I wanted to see if you had any last words before we sign off.
Yeah, listen, I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful that, we were able to connect. I think if me and you don't connect, I don't think this opportunity comes together. We have other partners, Diana, and these other folks that are coming together as well. My cousin's going to support me in this venture. I'm just grateful that I'm able to connect two of my worlds, right? From my healthcare world into this new real estate world, and be able to
Yeah.
put them together in a way. Something has led me there, and things happen for life works in strange ways, but everything has a reason, and I think for me is understanding and realizing, like, hey, this was supposed to click up and this was supposed to happen, and it's exciting for me. It's kind of rejuvenated myself in regards to, hey, what I can provide and the value I can provide, because I can see it, and I understand that world. Real estate, I'm learning more and more every day, but the healthcare world and what these providers need and want, and where their landscape is, I know very well. That's my expertise from a high level, right? Very much. So being able to bring these worlds together, I'm very grateful for it. I know it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be a lot of fun too. But I'm looking forward to kind of getting it launched. We'll have a high level, we'll have the website and things up in the next few weeks. We do have a little sign up form for our initial conversations of folks that may be interested. But we are working on the website, which is going to be Note Invest MD. And the larger company is going to be Note Invest LLC. I think we'll have a follow-up talk about that as well, kind of the broader vision of the company. But this brokerage is focused for providers. I'm going to be looking out for some people, maybe some physician advisors that want to come on and help out as well. But again, we want to provide resources to healthcare providers about investing in real estate notes for passive income, right? And we'll have a pool of notes that are available to them. We can discuss that maybe on a podcast. Maybe we do another episode, Crystal, and we dive into some of the notes that we're going to be offering, right? I think that's important. I think getting an idea and showing folks, listen, this is the return, this is what's available, how they're assessed, and the documentation behind them. I think we do another episode where we dive into what's available, right? And so maybe the inventory and go into that a little bit deeper as well. So yeah, no, I
I feel like we
appreciate.
could talk like weeks about this. There's just
I
so
know.
much
It is,
information.
and that's why I feel like it's going to come out. I think it's going to come
Yeah.
out naturally. I think the best businesses and the best ventures, in my opinion, are the ones that one, you're passionate about, but two, they just feel natural, right? And I feel that way with this venture. I think the Note Invest MD. I think it's coming together with the right team. Yourself with the pool and source of these notes. Myself that knows the healthcare space and what these providers are looking for from a financial standpoint and the landscape that exists currently. And then of course, Diana was going to come on board to kind of be some of our venture partner as well as we scale out the bigger part of the company.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited to dive in. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for everyone. And looking forward to kind of the next steps on it. So stay tuned on it. Follow our socials, LinkedIn, Aneel Irfan, Crystal on LinkedIn as well. We'll be launching some other social media handles for Note Invest MD and Note Invest LLC as well. The websites are coming soon as well. So a lot of exciting things coming, and we'll keep you posted on the podcast and future episodes as well. And for you to reach out if you have any questions, I'd love to hear that as well. But yeah, this is our first kind of communication going out and content going out on Note Invest MD. So looking forward to it.
That's huge. Well, thank you, Aneel. It's been such a pleasure, and I'm excited. I'm excited to see even just 6 months from now. We'll have to recap.
I know, right? Hey, well, this was episode 6. We first introduced it, right? So thanks again, everyone, for joining us on the Investors Corner podcast with Crystal and Aneel. Right? We'll see you next time. Make sure you check us all out on Spotify. Subscribe to the episode. The videos get dropped on my YouTube. Well, I think we're going to start a social media for the Investors Corner as well. Support the podcast. Tweet us, send us some messages. We look forward to it. And until next time, see you guys soon.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.
All right. So let me stop it.